like to do in this series of videos is we're going to go over some of the basics of music theory. Don't let the term music theory scare you. All it means is a study of how music works. We've gone through some of these concepts in previous videos, but in this series I want to present the terms and the concepts that you need to know in order to help you get a handle on music theory. Now, before we get into all of this, you may be asking, why should I learn all this? I mean, there's famous musicians that probably don't know a thing about music theory. Well, as you begin to learn music theory, first of all, you're going to see why you need to learn scales. You need to learn major scales, minor scales, and so on. And then as you build chords on each of those scale tones, you'll come to see how chords work together. As you're learning new songs, for example, once you see how the chords work with each other, you'll even be able to start predicting, as you train your ear, you'll be able to start predicting which chord will come next, especially if you're learning a song by ear. I used to play in songwriters' nights back in Florida, and I would accompany these guitar-playing songwriters on the keyboard, and once I figured out what key they were in, very often I could predict what chord they were going to go to next because of what I knew about music theory and about how chords work together. And so you'll be able to do that too. It will make you a better rounded musician. Think about any discipline, any skill that you might want to pick up. It might be cooking or woodworking, gardening. There are concepts and terms that you need to learn. Once you've learned those, they prove immensely helpful as you seek to master a particular skill. And the same thing applies with music. And so there are some names and terms that you need to know so that you can get a handle on music theory. But there's nothing to worry about because it's all very systematic. You won't have any trouble remembering everything. And so we're going to go through some of these terms here. We're going to start with some basic terms that we call technical names. And so what are these technical names? Well, the technical names in music, that's a set of 7 terms where we label every note of the scale. Every note is assigned a different technical name. And what these technical names do is it reflects each note's position in the scale. To illustrate this, let's take a major scale, and we're going to start with the C major scale. Before we move on to these examples, I want you to keep in mind that I'm going to use the term degree. And degree in music refers to the position of a note within its scale. So the first degree is the first note of the scale. The second degree is the second note of the scale, and so on. The first note of the scale is known as the tonic. Now we're starting here with the C major scale. And so the first note is the tonic. The second note is called the supertonic. The third note is called the mediant. The fourth is the subdominant. The fifth is called the dominant. The sixth degree is called the submediant. And the seventh degree is called the leading tone or the leading note. Now, these technical names work with any major or minor scale. So we started here with a simple scale, C major. We see that C is the tonic, D is the supertonic, E is the mediant, F is the subdominant, G is the dominant, A is the submediant, and B is the leading tone. Now, if we were to transfer this over to the D major scale, D is now the tonic, E is the supertonic, F sharp is the mediant, G is the subdominant, A is the dominant, B is the submediant, and C sharp is the leading tone. Or let's try B flat major. B flat is the tonic, C is the supertonic, D is the mediant, E flat is the subdominant, F is the dominant, G is the submediant, A is the leading tone, and then we're back on B flat, the tonic. So you'll notice that the technical names show the position of the notes within the scale. They don't refer to any specific note. So in the C major scale, C is the tonic. But if we're using B flat major, then B flat is the tonic, and C is now the supertonic. And if we're in the key of D, for example, D is the tonic, and E is the supertonic, and so on. Now the technical names apply just the same in minor scales as they do in major scales. So for example, let's take the scale of D harmonic minor. You remember we have 3 different types of minor scales. This is the harmonic minor. It's got that big skip there right before the end. In D harmonic minor, the tonic is D, the supertonic is E, the mediant is F, the subdominant is G, the dominant is A, the submediant is B flat, the leading tone is C sharp, and then we're back on the tonic. Here's an example with the scale of C harmonic minor. C is the tonic, D is the supertonic, the mediant is E flat, F is the subdominant, G is the dominant, A flat is the submediant, and B is the leading tone, or the leading note. And then we're back on the tonic. Now, there's one exception to all these technical names, and that occurs when we use the natural minor scale. And this technical name is known as the subtonic. The subtonic replaces the term leading tone or leading note when the 7th degree is a whole step away from the tonic rather than what is more common, the half step. Here's what happens when you use a natural minor scale. Let's take A minor, for example. Then when you get to the 7th note, notice it is a whole step away from the tonic, and so it becomes the subtonic. Now, it shouldn't be too hard to learn the technical names, even if they're completely new to you. And one thing that will help you remember the technical names is to learn what they mean and where they came from. So, what do these technical names in music mean? Well, it's quite fascinating to look at where these names actually came from. Each one of these terms reflect the note's position in the scale, and it also reveals the note's relationship to the tonic. Or we can say it describes the note's distance from the tonic. The tonic is the technical name for the first note of the scale. So in the C major scale, C is the tonic. The word tonic, as you might have guessed, comes from the word tone, and it simply means musical sound. In the key of C, C is home. This is where we start, this is where we end. The dominant is the 5th, and it's called the dominant because it's the most important note after the tonic. And what the dominant does is it helps establish the tonic as the tonic. This is what the dominant chord does. So, for example, just playing a C by itself, that C could belong to several different keys. It's part of the F major scale, it's part of the G major scale, but if we play G and C, now C sounds more like home. This feeling becomes even stronger when you use chords. So for example, if I play the C major chord by itself, well, that could be part of several different keys. It could be part of the key of F, or it could be key of G. But when we play G first, and then C, now C major sounds like home. The dominant chord establishes the tonic chord. Now we have the tonic and the dominant. We can move on to the rest of the technical names and see how they relate to the tonic. So halfway between the tonic and the dominant is the mediant. And once again, you might guess it comes from the Latin word meaning middle. This is the note in the middle of the tonic and the dominant. Now notice the dominant is a 5th up from the tonic. The The fourth note is a fifth down from the tonic, and so we call that the subdominant. The prefix sub referring to the fact that it is down from the tonic. You may recognize that term sub, like a submarine. You know, it's below the surface. So you have a fifth up, that's the dominant. You have a fifth down, and that is the subdominant. And just like the mediant is halfway between the tonic and the dominant, the submediant is sitting halfway between the tonic and the subdominant. And notice once again we're using that sub prefix. So we have the tonic, the submediant, and the subdominant in C major. C, A, and F. The second degree of the scale is called the supertonic, and the word super originally meant that which comes after. So obviously the supertonic is the note that comes after the tonic. And then the seventh note is called the leading tone because it leads us back to the tonic. All right, I think we're going to stop there because this video is in danger of becoming too long. I hope that you're able to follow along now as we are laying some foundations here in the basics of music theory. It's very important that you understand this. I really believe it's going to help you down the road as you learn to play songs, as you listen to music. It will give you a deeper appreciation of what you're listening to. You'll be able to analyze songs. You'll be able to predict where chord progressions are going to go. So we're going to be building chords on these notes, on the tonic, on the supertonic, the mediant, the dominant, and so on. And you'll begin to see how these chords relate to one another. And you'll begin to see how chord progressions are built as you learn the basics of music theory. Thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you'll stick with me as we continue to learn these foundational concepts and terms. And that will make you a better, well-rounded musician. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave those in the comment section below. And I look forward to speaking to you in the next one.